It's Friday, 6th December 2019. This is the first Friday in the month of December. And I want to say welcome everybody to the month of December. It's the month of celebration. It's the month of celebration and, gifts and Christmas. Everything is in the air. Decorations are going all over the place. You're welcome to my thoughts. My name is Priscilla Benjamin Olaoye, and with me as usual, to co-host the show is BKB. Hello BKB, how are you?
Hi, Merry Christmas in advance.
Merry Christmas in advance.
December is Christmas.
Yes,
all of the days of December.
And we talk about the colors of Christmas. We talk about red, we talk about green, we talk about white, and that's what we're doing in the studio today. And we also want to say that I'm sure that you're already thinking of gifts for your family, for your loved ones, for your friends, for your colleagues, and people that matter in your life. And because of this, we'll have a very interesting announcement to make before the end of the show. But of course, as usual, we'll go to our first segment, which is Brewing Hot. Please do not go anywhere. You're welcome back. I hope you did enjoy that segment with BKB, and you could feel her rage and her, anger and her frustration, especially with the last story. She's still here trying to recover from the traumatic statement
I'm really
of
angry.
That police officer.
I'm very angry. very, very angry. No, the filmmaker, actually.
The filmmaker.
The filmmaker.
Right.
Filmmaker.
Okay, so speaking of which, and because our topic tonight would slide into our topic tonight from there, would go with the flow. And honestly speaking, we talk about the woman taking responsibility for her sexuality. Okay, so a woman who is supposed to be assaulted, according to the story, is supposed to carry a condom, okay, so that she protects herself. And then she's not, the man who, carries out a non-violent rape is not supposed to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So we're grooming men who are not taught, okay, to have that self-restraint. And that's why we are eager to talk about this topic today and to do justice to that. Tonight, I'm super excited. BKB and I and our producer, Rita Alinok, was super excited tonight to have with us a family life therapist and an author who's authored about 5 books. We'll talk about the books as we go on. Who's authored about 5 books, practical books, and also who is a family life therapist, Dele Abogun. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're excited to have you.
I'm just imagining myself between 2 beautiful ladies.
Oh, my goodness, thank you. That's so beautiful. Coming from a man like you, thank you so much.
Thank you.
At least not from the filmmaker saying something different.
Thank you. So we had started a conversation last week about the boy within. But today, we're going to be evolving, that topic is going to be evolving into a topic we have titled Modern Day Masculinity. Now, to give a background to that, we're saying that there is a narrative as to how a macho man should be like and how a macho man should be, And last week we had our guest, talk about the fact that he kept stressing a word, 2 words, nature and nurture. And he was saying that the boy child, while he's being raised, is exposed. And the boy child, while being raised, is not raised like the girl child. The girl child is more protected. But the boy child is left to figure things out on his own. And therefore, we're beginning to raise a crop of men. And I know you're quite passionate about family life and all of that, and how that now has also evolved into conflict management, which I know you have a book on as well. Yeah. So, but let's lay some background to this. In your opinion, I'm going to allow you as well to give a background. In your opinion, do you think boy children are raised differently from the girl child?
Well, I will say yes, because sometimes when you look at the behavioral pattern of man, and especially this part of the world that we came from, there's this funny stereotype mindset that believes that a man should be tough, believes a man should not cry. And right there from childhood, they start getting that narrative. And may I also say this, that we are all products of our past experiences. And those experiences has a way of programming us. So people will complain, it's as if boys behave in a certain way different from girls. They made it sound as if it's in the nature of the masculine, that is in that masculine nature. But it is more cultural than biological. So I would say yes. And it's just so unfortunate that it has its own cultural biases that led to where we are today. And I, for instance, I grew from a family of 10 with 8 children.
Your mom is a strong woman.
Only one woman.
Yes.
And I witnessed practically how, some things are learned through action, not what parents are saying. So I watched how there's this stereotype that believes that, or mindset that believes that women are meant for the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And men are meant to go out, hunters to go fend for the family. And when you have important issues or important subjects to discuss, women are meant to step aside, the men are supposed to come. I've witnessed where we tell a boy fall down, injured himself, or something happened and he's crying. I said, be a man. Boys don't cry.
Man it up.
Yeah, man it up. So that's from that childhood, unconsciously in the life of that child, growing up, believing that as a man, I'm meant to maintain my emotion. I'm meant to cover it up. I'm meant to be able to show that macho.
Suppressing the real person
your emotions. So let's kick in, because of our time, into what today really is about. Okay. We've been able to identify the problems, and I love someone who I consider my coach quite a lot. And one of the things he says is that even a foolish person can identify the problem. It's when you begin to ask people to provide solutions that people begin to stammer. And then an average person will say, oh, the government, that's what. So I want us to dig deep, to dive in and begin to talk about the solutions. This narrative has also affected communication between couples. It's also affected communication even in the office. Yeah. How a male colleague will speak to a female, and how a female will speak to a male, and vice versa. But I want us to begin to talk solutions now. How do you think we can begin to identify and then re-narrate or change the narrative of these stereotypes?
Let me give my own personal experience. I grew up having a mindset from the one I got from my parents growing up, especially my dad, that believes you don't show a woman everything, especially when it comes to finance. So I grew up when I got into a relationship, and I found myself playing out, because you will always play out what you are programmed, but whatever goes into a mind come out of a life. And therefore, that had gone into my mind unconsciously, and when it was my time, it was just like a repeat button that was being pressed. And I realized that at the initial stage, I was uncomfortable to let my wife know how much exactly I'll be earning. That's one.
Because it defined how masculine.
Yeah, yes. And when I caught myself in that web, gratefully, I associated myself with people who are exposed, people who have the right information. So they challenged that mindset. And I have to sit down and I analyze it critically, and I thought to myself, deep down I said, this mindset is actually wrong. And therefore, it will not help my relationship. And that's how I deliberately started working out to change that concerning my life. So if you ask me and you're saying maybe what would be the possible solution one, I would say let us encourage emotions in the life of
the boy child.
To be verbalized.
To be verbalized, because when you cry
or
as
expressed.
Yes, when you cry as a child, it's as if are you a girl? You are crying like a girl. That's a statement.
Word.
And when I was not growing up, when I cried like that, and you see, I tried to cover it up. And research had shown that people who tend to cover up for men, say they have higher chances of developing depression, because when you harbor or keep so much within you that you are not allowing to let out, then it becomes a problem. All in the bid that you want to be the man.
But may I ask something at that point now?
All right.
For us women, what does it mean to be what does it mean to be a man to us? I don't know, I'm trying to see the best way to put that question. Because for us women now, what do we see in a man? What encapsulates a man for us? How do we respond or react to a man who cries? Now, do not forget that we are all victims of our backgrounds, yes. The information we've been fed. Yeah. For us women, do we see, because the man also, resocialization helped you. And then that helped you to new information helped you to challenge the status quo, yes. You know. Now, for a man, on the other hand, the woman is looking at you and saying, why is he crying? He's not supposed to cry. Do I want to be attracted to a man that cries? And then the man is saying, how do I balance things? I want to be the masculinity within me. I want it to be there. But at the same time, I also know that this is not the right way to express my being a man. This is wrong.
I think for any...
So in other words, balancing the reorientation for both the man and the woman. That's what she's trying to...
Yes. What I would say is for any lady that's watching out there, and for the guys, it's good we are all human beings, we are emotional beings. So when something happened, you know, a few times I find myself crying before I got this understanding. I get embarrassed because it makes me, in quotes, less of a man until I got that information. So myself and my wife, for instance, we've married for 17 years now. We have 3 children. So we've gotten that understanding to let her to know that if I've cried before her, and she will always stretch forth her hands to ensure that she encouraged me. She has cried and wept before me, and likewise, it was a mutual thing. So we need to see that crying does not necessarily mean a man is not mature enough or is not mature. I'm not talking about people who can't face up their challenges, but there's also balance side to it now. But the process whereby a man faces a situation, maybe you lost a dear one, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I lost my mom 2 years back, and the tears were uncontrollably. What my wife did was, knowing that I'm a normal human being, and I understand fully that when they come, let it go, because it's even therapeutic on its own. Yeah. She had to come to my aid, held me, you know, I became the baby. So that boy within me came out. And because we always say that the problem of our world is an adult and the solution is a child. So can we be children within that skin, within that adult skin, so that the real us can actually play out?
Can we then say, sorry, please.
I don't want us to go above the head of the average, listener, who is the average, viewer who is watching right now.
All right.
And I want us to break this down, because the question that BKB asked is very critical. As to, it's okay for the man, it's okay for us to say to the man that he should express himself emotionally. He should, because what I hear you say is vulnerability.
Yep.
Just vulnerability in terms of your finances, vulnerability, which I want to pick one after the other. But I wanted you to calm down, in terms of, speaking, because her question is, aside reorienting the man himself, the woman in the man's life also needs some reorientation. Yeah. So what would you say? That's what she's trying to know. What would you say to the woman who needs to understand that masculinity is vulnerability is embedded in masculinity? Be vulnerable. The fact that you're a man does not make you less human.
Yeah.
So I want you to speak to the woman in the lives of many men and the women that are going into the life of many men, because we've seen ladies say no to a relationship because they say the man is acting like a woman.
Okay, because
that narrative of a woman. I want you to speak into
I was just going to say that. Can we then say that the women have a role to play in allowing the men to actually be masculine? I love the statement, the phrase she used just now, that vulnerability is embedded in masculinity.
So one thing, because close to 20 years of my counseling experience had showed that, I started out by saying that we are a product of our past experiences. So as it applies to a man, it also applies to a woman. And I've had cases where I handled where you see a man saying, hey, I think I married a man in the house. And especially when you see a woman that has been independent for many years. So she's been toughened, she has lived most of her life independent. Such a woman will see through that lens in a man that she now feels is weak by her own interpretation because of the training and exposure and experiences that she actually went through. So I want to candidly advise a lady that is watching right now that vulnerability is very key and is both sides. And we need to look at the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective is for the health of this relationship. So if we can have that reorientation that we just talked about and understand this thing from that standpoint, then it helps a woman to make excuses for the man, especially if you have an idea. Because we tell people, you talk about your past experiences, because from your past experiences, you get to understand each other more. And that puts a responsibility on you to have effective communication. And by having that effective communication, I have the privilege to know where you are coming from. Exactly. You have the privilege to know where I'm coming from. And when you have that, then I can understand you better. Let's push it down further to also understand that when you have that effective communication, I have an understanding of what your wiring look like. Because now we should talk within the context of the personality types, because sometimes those experiences has a way of adding up who you are based on the temperament you are displaying. So if I understand that, then I can empathize with you, because each temperament has come with its own strengths and own weaknesses. So if I understand that, I won't be using my strength to judge you, because most times it's so funny that
especially along gender lines.
Yes, along gender lines, yes. And it's so funny that even in life has a way of making opposites attract. And when you attract, what seems to be that attractive force why we want to get into a relationship becomes eventually the bone of contention at the end of the day. Yeah. So it's for the lady or the man to be able to see that, understanding from where they are coming from.
Fantastic.
And understand the peculiarity in their temperament, their love language, and the world view that they share because of where they are coming from. And when you understand that, then I can relate with you better. I can empathize with you better. And when I know your strength, that is a weakness to me, I'm vulnerable enough, I'm humble enough to allow your strength to come to bear, where I can leverage on. Then vice versa as well.
Fantastic. If you're just joining us, this is My Thoughts, and we have Dele Abogun here with us in the studio, and we're talking about masculinity within. Now, if you have a man in your life and you feel that he's not expressing himself enough, or you have certain narratives as to how a man should be, and you feel that maybe that narrative has helped you in your relationship or is not helping you in your relationship, would love to hear from you. Would like you to call in via the number that is displaying on your TV screen. Would also want you to send in your comments via WhatsApp, via the number that is on your screen right now. Would love to hear from you, and would also want you to engage our guest, Dele Abogun, who is also an author. And I would like to go straight into that at this point. Okay. Now, having given that some of the solutions, I want to bring this back into relationships, and how this is affecting conflict management. Okay. How So, because what causes conflict is our differences, right? The fact that we're seeing through different lenses.
Yes.
And because I know that you've also written on conflict management and so many other things, amongst other things rather, I would want us to talk about how to manage. Okay, so now this conflict is now existing. A case study BKB is very good with. I can tell you that she's seated right there. She has a story that she remembers about how something. She's so good with it. I don't know how she does it. But I mean, she has stories archived, right there. So I'm sure by the time, before you leave, she'll tell you a story or something, one guy will. But since I don't have any stories, so I'm just going to say that. Could you help us with how some of the solutions that you have, put on ground, how it can help in conflict management, how we can then begin to walk in each other's shoes and resolve our differences?
Thank you very much. What I would say is, because of the limited time that we have, I will want to say, like in that book that you rightly mentioned, what I tried to capture there was to talk about the essence of conflict, getting people to understand the good and bad management outcomes of conflict, and also nailing it, talking about dealing with it. And for sake of time, what I'll bring out is communication. Communication, because it's the bedrock.
We have a caller from Abuja, David. Hello, David. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
Hello, David. How are you? You're welcome on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your question or your contribution to our guest or on the topic?
Yeah, thank you.
Go on.
Go on, we can hear you.
Okay. What I want to thank you, I can both of them understand each other. I can both of them understand each other.
David, can you speak up a little bit so we can hear you?
Yeah, what I want to say is that I can do both understand each other. These are two. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that I can both of them understand each other because they're coming from a different background.
The line isn't very clear.
Okay, so
They have their own flow.
David, are you on hands-free?
Sorry themselves.
David, are you on hands-free? Are you using a speakerphone? Because you're going on and off, or we don't know if it's your network. You could call us back, so that maybe the line will be clearer. Would appreciate if you try and call back, but we can hear you. All right. Okay, so you were saying, sir?
Yes, that I'm leveraging on communication, because communication is the bedrock of any relationship. And why I pick communication is because you can read a lot of stuff on conflict management, can say maybe sex is a problem, managing temperament is a problem, in-law, related matter, finance, and rest like that. But when it comes to communication, it's been researched, and there's a research that says that it's 85% relationship. And just imagine if you don't get communication right, 85% of what you're supposed to get right is gone. And if it's gone, something will go wrong with your sex life. Something will go wrong with finances. Something will go wrong with in-law related matters, and so many like that. So we try to look at it, okay, it's better to hinge this thing on communication and see how effective this communication can be, and is an embodiment of all the other ones that I just mentioned now. And when we're talking about communication, it's broad. It's broad because we are talking about the vehicles with which you are communicating. You're talking about talking, you're talking about action, you're talking about atmospheres and attitudes. And within this, it's also researched that there's three major points or cardinal area that you need to focus on when you talk about the use of words, the tone of voice, and also the nonverbal expression. And the research showed that the use of voice is only 7%. And then the tone of voice, 38%, and nonverbal expression is 55%. Just imagine, so that's why people will say, it's not what you say that is as important as how you say it.
Yeah.
Imagine I try to say something like, I will say, thank you. Thank you, supposed to register a positive feelings in the life of someone. But there's a way I can communicate.
Tone of voice.
There's a tone of voice and the way I go about my expression that will communicate otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have just displayed that. So if we do, and all of this, your communication style stems from the programming that you had growing up. If I have a superior mentality, that men are superior, and that's what I grew with. And by the time I married or I'm in a relationship, you see somebody that is dictatorial and somebody that wants to impose things. I've been through a lot of counseling sessions. You see someone not ready to budge. Right there and then, while we are going through the counseling session,
his word is law.
It's law. And you hear statements like, she doesn't respect me. And when you try
she's not submissive.
She's not submissive. And when you narrow it down to get why he had the perception of not being respected, it boils down to this thing we're talking about. Or is it somebody that will not cry? You see somebody in serious pain and yet not opening up to the person that he can be accountable.
Or even empathizing with the emotions of the woman.
The emotions of the person, because as far as he is concerned, it's an indictment on his masculinity.
To show vulnerability.
Because he's been wired.
Yeah.
To think for you to be seen as a man, to be respected as a man, you must, when you speak, the other gender must obey you.
Yeah.
They must not, argue with you.
Yeah.
That to him is being masculine. Yeah. So when that is challenged, he feels threatened. Just the same way.
Can I use a personal example?
Please.
Yes, please, as you round up.
Time
is up.
When we just got married, my wife's temperament trait is choleric. My temperament trait is phlegm male. So I'm introverted, she's extroverted. And I'm mindful with the meaning of the choice of words. She grew up from an environment where...
Say it as it is.
Say it as it is. So that first year was challenging for me. When she says something, it hits me to my bone marrow, and I'll react back. And sometimes I went to my closet and I said, I hope I've not made a mistake with this relationship. I'm telling you. Because I grew up believing that a woman's supposed to mind how she speaks to a man. But the
without taking it into consideration our personality and background.
Personality and background. Only for me. Later on, I have to sit down. So that's why I coined a phrase that tell people, intentions, not approach, is what you should consider more.
Say that again, please, so we get it.
Intentions, not the approach, is what you should consider more. So I sat down.
So the message and not the delivery.
Yes. So when I looked at it, it's for my good and sometimes the good of the entire family. And therefore, if that's the case, then I would rather work on avoiding those things that trigger her to be angry. And therefore, it helped our communication and we were able to move from there. And tracing them back in terms of trying to keep emotion, trying to see women as less superior, they are not superior, men are superior to women, looking at the gender type that feels, okay, women should be pushed in terms of chores and rest. So now we've even grown and teaching our boys, because we have 2 boys and 1 girl, teaching them the boys does chores in the house.
Good.
So we did the role gender, the roles, we switched it
fluid.
To correct that mindset that believe that men don't enter the kitchen. At the end of the day, if you have married a kind of wife, that will be okay, fine. But if there's a need, you do not use that as if it's the responsibility of the woman.
Fantastic. Honestly speaking, I've picked quite a number of things, but I'm going to allow you, like I said, as we round up, because time flies when we're having fun. I want you to give your parting shots to, especially from maybe some excerpts from some of the things that you feel should be take home for the person who is watching from tonight's show.
Okay. If you're watching right now, whether you are the man that evolved from that boy or you are the lady, know that differences are not deficiencies. Differences are not deficiencies. That will help, and it will help you embrace where those differences are. And always bear at the back of your mind that the ultimate objective of you entering a relationship is to build a healthy one. And that's why I tell people that you can experience bliss if only you are willing to give it what it takes to make that marriage or that relationship works.
Thank you so much. BKB, your parting shots.
Okay, my last words for tonight. I love the phrase, I keep saying it, what you said earlier, that there is vulnerability in masculinity. For me, that is so profound. Every man out there should believe it, should accept it, and every woman out there also, because we have a role to play in changing the narrative in our society about men. Without us, the men will not find it easy to let their vulnerability show or the boy within come out because they want to prove to us they're strong. So let all of us accept it, that there is vulnerability in masculinity. So when a man displays certain kind of emotion, don't be shocked or don't look down on him and think he's too feminine. No, that's part of who he is. And then the second aspect is that men should please be open-minded, seek information, re-socialize. When you're open-minded, learn from other people. Try and challenge status quo. If you've been raised in an environment where they say don't cry, challenge it, get new information. Why shouldn't I cry? What does it do to me as a person? Okay, if you've been raised in an environment where they say, men can be talked to in a certain way, you see it as disrespect, challenge it. She's also a woman. She's also a person like me.
BKB has started the show all over again.
Yeah, so I just want us to, let me just quickly round up. So I just want us to look at these two aspects as to helping ourselves in the society and helping the men force.
Because of our time, I'm just going to wish you a very beautiful week. I also want to say that we are starting, this is the season of gifts, and we are intending on the 27th on this show to give gifts to our viewers. So if you would like us to gift someone a gift, now is the season of love. It shouldn't be about yourself. It should be about the other person. Yeah. So if you want us to gift someone a gift, we'd want you to go on our social media page and mention that person on our page and tell us the reason why you feel that we should gift that person a gift. Yeah. We collect this from this period to the 27th when we will be distributing these gifts in the spirit of Christmas. I will round up by saying thank you very much, Pastor Deb. Thank you so much for coming.